Fuck Chomos, you should cast a spell to go fuck yourself.
안녕, 나는 촛불부장이야.
Oh shit, yeah, we gotta do a new episode, don't we? Fuck, episode 143. Happy Halloween, everybody. The only holiday that matters, if you ask me. And, what do we got here? What have I been listening to?
우리 동아리 실세는 바로.
Oh no, we can't do another friggin' Peste Noir episode. They'll kill me. You know what? How about Black Sabbath?
회의해야 되는데 쟁댕이 또 어디 갔어?
Yeah, I know I did a Black Sabbath episode way back when, but, you, co-host lady person, weren't around for that, so I'll forgive you for not realizing this, but when I do a Black Sabbath episode, it's not going to be about, like, friggin' Paranoid or Iron Man or something. I've been listening to Black Sabbath for so long, they've been probably the single largest musical influence on me for as long as I've been holding instruments. So when I decide to talk about them, I go very in-depth, and I tend to do it about portions of their discography or maybe aspects of their sound that I feel are overlooked in favor of the more obvious stuff. Case in point, as you can probably tell from the thumbnail, if you're watching this on YouTube, we're going to be talking about the Tony Martin album. So what the heck does that mean? Well, Black Sabbath, more than anything, is Tony Iommi's band. Like, he's been the only consistent member. Usually Geezer Butler's there, but he's not there on these albums. And, you know, there's been, like, the major personalities in and out of the band, like Ozzy or Dio, that kind of thing. Tony Martin is sort of the other Black Sabbath vocalist, which would make Ian Gillan the other Black Sabbath vocalist, Glenn Hughes the other Black Sabbath vocalist, Ray Gillan the other Black Sabbath vocalist, and Michael Bolton.
The past on waking up.
Remember that cafe in Paris?
The other dude that actually did rehearse with them a couple times. That's a fun little factoid to bring up at your metal parties. But Tony Martin, this era of Sabbath is fraught with controversy and internet autism, because you have your garden variety idiot Black Sabbath fan that only likes the Ozzy albums. You got your overcompensating Dio fanboy who shits on the Ozzy albums and only likes the Dio albums. And then you have the bleeding edge of internet autism that insists that the Tony Martin stuff is the best. I myself, however, am a bit more of a radical centrist.
There we go. I mean, I'm not...
On the BSQ, the Black Sabbath question, in that I appreciate pretty much all of their discography for what it is. They all have their strong points, and like the different sections are essentially almost entirely different bands. You still got Tony writing all the music, but the people that are in the band really color the experience quite a bit. Since we're talking about Tony Martin here, that's a vocalist. Well, think of the difference between like Ozzy Osbourne and Ronnie James Dio. I'm not just talking about the character of their voices. I mean, what does he do with the music? How does it work in the music, these vocals? He sings with the riff. You see this? He's following the guitar lines almost exactly with his voice. Occasionally he inserts like little bluesy interjections. Oh yeah, you know, like all that kind of stuff. But no, he follows the music. He sings with the music. What does Dio do in comparison? He's not singing with the guitar, he's singing across it, if that makes sense. He's like filling in gaps in the music with his own kind of melodies. Which with some people might say that's more technically complex. It comes down to personal taste, I would say, but it works exceptionally well with the Sabbath albums that he's on, and I think that the fact that he sings across the music instead of with it probably influenced Tony Iommi's songwriting process. Similarly, drummers during the Ozzy era, you had Bill Ward. He's big on drum fills. He has quite a bit of jazz to it. A lot of really long rolls, and he kind of dances around the music. Most of the rhythmic pulse comes from Geezer and Tony. Bill Ward's just doing his own thing. Lots of crazy fills. Very texture-oriented drummer. Compare that to the main drummer of note for the Dio albums, Vinny Appice. He's the exact opposite. He's very big on hammering home that rhythmic pulse. Almost mathematical precision. And I think that is perfect for Dio-era Sabbath because Dio's vocal lines are kind of doing their own thing rhythmically. You need a little bit extra bulk in the pulse of the song to compensate for that. And then similarly, because Ozzy is so enslaved to the what the guitar melody is doing, that gives you room in the music to do all kinds of wacky drum fills and whatnot. Similarly, the lineup for the Tony Martin era Sabbath albums, the other musicians in the band besides Tony Iommi heavily influenced how those albums turned out, which makes for some very unique sounding Sabbath albums. It starts off with The Eternal Idol in 1987. So this one's interesting because it's their last album on Warner Brothers until the album 13, their final album way back in 2010 or 11 or where the hell that came. I don't remember. But anyways, it's their last album on Warner Brothers. It's their first album with Tony Martin. Most of the other guys in the band are kind of session dudes, and there was a lot of turmoil around this time because originally the vocalist on this album was going to be another guy by the name of Ray Gillen, who is mostly famous for getting AIDS due to his rather lifestyle choices, which also resulted into him giving AIDS to a whole bunch of different groupie type chicks, resulting in multiple deaths aside from his own demise, which means that this sort of behavior led to him getting ousted from the band fairly quickly into the recording sessions. And despite the album being pretty much fully recorded with vocals from him, you couldn't get that version of the album for a very long time. It was specifically taken off the market, and you can only get it now as like a second bonus disc on the Japanese re-release of the album. Some people think that the Ray Gillen vocals tracks sound better than Tony Martin's. I don't know if it's like misguided romanticism for some fallen 80s rock hero dude or fucking whatever. Tony Martin sounds better, so it don't fucking matter. So we're gonna be using the Tony Martin version, everybody.
불쇼를 하고 있습니다. Wow.
Jeff Nichols from Quartz is in the band, providing a whole lot of keyboards. He's always been associated with Black Sabbath since the late 70s, but he made his largest impact on the Tony Martin era albums, as you can tell by the atmospheric keyboard work. This album is big on layered sounds, but paradoxically, it's also very minimalist. There's a lot more negative space on this than other Sabbath albums. Parts where there's silences in the music, leading to very high-impact transitions. So here are the Tony Martin vocals. He sings across the music kind of like Dio, but not in such an avant-garde manner. And his voice is a bit smoother than the gravelly kind of shit you would hear from Dio, which makes it rather power metal sounding in a way, especially on the choruses. But I think he's got a great smooth voice, and he sounds pretty cool. Here's the power metal shit for you. Very good, doomy power metal. It's power metal-y, but it's still Sabbath. It's just Sabbath in kind of a new way. This transition riff here is so fucking cool. Watch how it links up with the keyboard here. That is dank. Also on this album, we have Bob Daisley actually provided the bass playing, despite what various Wikipedia Metal Archives would tell you. It was Bob Daisley, and he helped write the songs a lot. So you had a lot of help from Bob Daisley, who of course was in Ozzy Osbourne's solo band. You had songwriting help from Jeff Nichols from Quartz, and then you got Tony doing his Tony thing. Speaking of Quartz, check this riff out. This particular guitar riff reminds me quite a bit of Quartz, with how many like sections it has to it. I learned how to play this riff the other day by ear. It goes all up and down the neck, does all kinds of weird things. And we're into the more atmospheric stuff with the galloping guitars making a return from the Dio era, but now with like very heavy keyboard usage. It's not like the keyboards shove the guitars aside. It means that he can do more interesting kind of textural things, since the keyboards are locking the melody down a bit. This song's called Glory Ride. The other one I played was called Ancient Warrior. This chorus is amazing. But it's not all this kind of like mystical, doomy sort of like power metal type stuff. There's also faster bits. Hard Life to Love has kind of this like pretty cool sort of like almost hair metal feel to it, but it's still like Tony doing it, so it's got kind of its own thing going on. Interesting style.
I was swatted last night, you lowlife motherfucker, you!
Then we also get Lost Forever, which dips pretty heavily into being kind of like proto-thrash speed metal shit, which of course is also awesome. So overall, it's a very varied album. Very varied. That's easy to say. There's a whole lot of variety going on. But you probably haven't heard about this album. They had troubles touring with it because of some rather Welsh behavior on the part of Ozzy Osbourne's management, getting shows canceled and whatnot, making it hard to get the album in stores, calling into venues and saying that Black Sabbath had canceled shows when they hadn't. Just typical Welsh behavior that makes it pretty hard to find any of the Tony Martin Sabbath albums even to this day, and you're never going to hear any of this stuff live. I mean, you're not going to hear any more Black Sabbath live, not because they're retired, but when they got, they did that reunion, either the Dio reunion or the Ozzy one, you're not going to hear anything off of any of the Tony Martin albums. They essentially don't exist according to the music industry, which is sad. So for the second album, instead of just having kind of like fairly session level drumming, we got a big celebrity drummer, Cozy Powell from Rainbow. What's so funny? Wait, what are you doing with my drop machine over there?
Gay!
Fag it! No, bad. That's a very delicate piece of audio podcasting equipment. I can't have you abusing it like that. And though nowadays, usually the rainbow is a symbol associated with fat.
Light in the loafers, pickles, neighbors.
Back then, Rainbow was the band that originally introduced the world to Dio. It was a great early power metal band from England. It's got Ritchie Blackmore in it. It had Dio in it. And it's got friggin' Cozy Powell, who was looking for a job. He picked up the phone when Sabbath needed a drummer, and that resulted in a snare drum sound best described as
Extra thick!
This is the second Sabbath album with Tony Martin on it. It's called Headless Cross, and it is darn heavy. And also very atmospheric. The guitar playing on this, he does a lot of weird stuff, like this little bar chord thingy here. How spooky was that? Like, this is probably the closest Sabbath ever came to doing an overtly satanic album. If you look at the lyrics, Tony Martin went very spooky. And it has this, like, really expansive 80s production to it. This is kind of like the most beloved of the Tony Martin era Sabbath albums. It's actually not my favorite. I enjoy Eternal Idol the most, but I think it's great. Let's see what happens later in the song, guys.
Hey!
These lyrics are so good. Super spooky stuff. I love it. Look at those ambient keyboards from Jeff Nichols. Almost no guitar at all, just the keyboards and the bass in this particular section of the song. But when the guitar comes in right after the sixth scream, heavy as fuck. Look at this big full chord here. That's so heavy, but in a completely different way than the Sabbath albums prior to this. Very unique guitar playing on this album. I hope you guys are ready for some more epic power metal high notes. Funnily enough, Headless Cross, despite, sounding pretty evil, is actually just the name of a neighborhood over in England. But Tony Martin was like, I could do stuff with that, and he's got songs with titles like Nightwing, Devil and Daughter, and it's all just like spooky fucking shit. Tony actually didn't end up liking the lyrics on this at all. He thought, Tony Iommi, didn't end up liking the lyrics that the other Tony Martin did for this album. He thought he went a little bit too far, but I think they fit very well with the gloomy atmosphere on this one. But on the next album, entitled Tear, they went further into a very power metal-y sound, and this album is sometimes accused of being a concept album because it's called, like, Tear. It's got all the Viking stuff on it. They wrote the title in runes, except they used the wrong one for the Y. They used an algies, which doesn't make a Y sound. It makes like a zh noise. So instead of tear, if you were to actually read the runes on this, it would end up sounding like
Tishi, which is Chinese for disappointed in the cooking of the duck meat.
But it's not actually a concept album. There's one like multi-song suite about Norse mythology and such, but the other songs are about, you know, all kinds of different stuff. A lot of very mystical sounding things. Speaking of mystical sounding, check out this clean guitar intro here. This is good stuff. It's in between bluesy and almost kind of medieval. Interesting kind of blend. Only Tony Iommi could pull off. And these vocals here, does this not sound like friggin' Blind Guardian in the mid-90s? But it's not. This is Black Sabbath in the year 1990. So this album might have been clandestine influence on a lot of the more neoclassical power metal of the 90s. Yeah, no, this dude's a great vocalist. See, now I'm doing the internet autist thing. I'm getting overly defensive of the Tony Martin era. I'm like, dude, this guy's vocals are so good. And these albums are so good. Just great music. It's gonna get heavy. This riff. This almost sounds like something that could have come off the Born Again album with Ian Gillan singing on it. But with these like super gothic keyboards under it, it gives it a whole new kind of flair. Actually, now that I think about it, this might be my favorite of the Tony Martin albums, as I'm listening to it right now. But then I'll go back and listen to Eternal Idol and be like, no, that's my favorite. I'll switch back and forth. They're both great. All three of these are great. It's really good, very atmospheric stuff. The songs are all super long and they have like big build-ups and stuff, but it's not all ethereal. It's not all like super progressive, super atmospheric type stuff either. There's also very riff-heavy power metal on this album. Like this song, Lawmaker. Despite its title, it's not about the god Tyr. Instead, it's actually, I don't know, about some sort of like Judge Dredd-esque character they made up. And this is total like speed metal type shit, and I love it. Of course, when I say things are like speed metal or power metal in reference to Black Sabbath, these guys like predated all that terminology existing. And I don't know how much other metal these guys listened to. I like to think they probably came to these concepts on their own. But it sure sounds like a power metal to me. Great stuff. Awesome riffs. Super catchy. So yeah, that's Tyr, and that's the first Tony Martin era of Black Sabbath, because after that they did some wacky contract negotiation and managed to get Dio over back into the band after he'd done the criminally underrated album Lock Up the Wolves with his solo band. They managed to poach him back into Black Sabbath to do a Dehumanizer, which is an entirely different beast, and that also had like Vinny back on drums. And then that version dissolved. They got the Tony Martin guys back together again to do 2 more albums, Cross Purposes and Forbidden, but that's an entirely different era of Black Sabbath. It's not really part of this like weird sort of like power metal foray they made with the first 3 Tony Martin albums, so we're not going to be talking about them this time. Sorry guys, but hopefully that gets you to listen to these 3 Black Sabbath albums if you can find them. They're well worth tracking down, great hidden gems. And with that, I'll see ya.
Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, panic spreading far and wide. Who can turn the tide?
Eat a bag of Asperger's.